When asked to solve a quadratic inequality, we need to be able to sketch a quadratic curve, and that involves factorizing quadratics, solving quadratic equations, and then we worry about the inequalities. So question 1 we're going to look at, and question 18 we're going to look at. Two slightly different questions. So here's question 1. We have this as a question. We need to solve the inequality. First thing we'll do is check to make sure that this quadratic is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, so that we know how to factorize it. So we're going to let the equation be equal to 0. So I'm going to swap out that inequality sign just for an equal sign, and then we're going to factorize. So we know how to factorize quadratics. This factorizes to give us x plus 3, x plus 5. Now because we're letting it equal to 0, that means our two solutions for this quadratic equation are minus 3 and minus 5. Now whenever we let a quadratic equal to 0 and we solve, that gives us two very important points. These are the points where the curve cuts the x-axis. So whenever we come to draw or sketch our curve, these points are very important. Now just note that quadratics, whenever we sketch them, can take two forms. They can be U-shaped, or the opposite, upside down, an N shape if you like. And the one on the left is whenever we have a positive x squared coefficient, and the one on the right is whenever we have a negative x squared coefficient. These are the ones that you're going to get. So you're only going to, whenever it comes to quadratic inequalities, you're only going to have to sketch the U-shaped ones. So these x coordinates, minus 3, 0 and minus 5, 0, are where it cuts the x-axis, here and here. And then it's going to be a U-shape. And it goes through the y-axis at the point 15, because when x is equal to 0, y is going to be equal to 15. The graph is going to be equal to 15. So this is a sketch of a quadratic. Now we're going to use this sketch of a quadratic to solve this quadratic inequality. So what does this mean? This sign means less than or equal to 0. And whenever we have a quadratic and it's asking us when is that quadratic less than or equal to 0, well then it's asking us when is that quadratic, when is that curve negative. And by negative it means underneath the x-axis. So when is this curve underneath the x-axis? In this particular case, the curve is underneath the x-axis for this portion. So it is negative between these two values, minus 5 and minus 3. Now how do we write that algebraically? The quickest way is to stick down our minus 5 and our minus 3 with x in the middle, and then copy this sign here and here. Because what that means is that minus 5 is less than or equal to our value of x, which in turn is less than or equal to minus 3. This is a closed inequality. There is a start and a finish, because whenever we have this region here, it starts at minus 5 and goes to minus 3 and stops. If the question had said where is the curve greater than or equal to 0, well then we would have been looking at these two portions, and they are two separate inequalities. There's more on that in the next question. So this is our answer to that question. So this one, question 18, it's a little bit longer at the start because we have to factorize this quadratic. So 2 by 3 gives us plus 6, so multiples of 6 that add to give us 7 is a plus 6x and an x. Factorize, you get 2x plus 1 upon x plus 3. Now we're going to let that equal to 0 so that we get our 2x coordinates. It's a positive x squared curve, so it's going to be a U shape, and it goes through these points and also cuts the y-axis at 3. So our x coordinates are minus 3 and minus a half, and it goes through this point 3. Now this is the curve 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. And the question is asked us, well, when is that curve greater than 0? Not greater than or equal to, but greater than 0. So what portion or portions of the line of this curve are above the x-axis? Whereabouts is this curve above the x-axis? And the answer is here and here. So how do we write that algebraically? So 2x squared plus 7x plus 3, where is it positive? Where is it above the curve? Well, it is positive here, and how do we write that? Well, that's less than minus 3. Notice that there's no or equal to part because there's none in the question. So this is one of our solutions. And there's another solution. It is positive here, where it is to the right of minus a half, so x is greater than minus a half. So there are two regions, two solutions. You just write them separately. So because these are above the curve, i.e. positive, we're going to have two solutions. Our previous question is below the curve. It was only one solution. It was a closed group.